Hello and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today, we're going into the deep philosophy of the Bhagavatam, and we're going to address one of the big issues, the big question that comes up again and again about the personal versus the impersonal aspects of the divine, of God. Most people that have come to spirituality think of spirit as something that is impersonal, energy, the universe. And they like to leave it at that, thinking that, well, at least we don't have to deal with some vicious God who's going to send people to heaven and hell. But that could be the furthest thing from the truth. The Vedas do explain an aspect of the divine, of God, that is impersonal, the energy, the universe. Yes, they do. But they then go on to explain that that's not all. That's just the first thing that you're seeing, the first thing you're coming across, which now scientists understand as well, because they refer to it as this quantum field, if you want to call it that. If they call it, they see the particles, they see the energy of the universe, and they're able to now conclude that, yes, these statements of the Vedas are actually correct. They now have evidence for it. However, the question still remains, is there a being behind this energy? Is there a person behind this powerful creation, this enormous and magnificent creation? So today in the prayers of the Vedas, we'll get to understand some of that. Our conversation begins with the King Parikshit. And his next question to the great sage Shukadev is, O Brahman, how can the Vedas directly describe the supreme absolute truth who cannot be described in words? The Vedas are limited to describing the qualities of material nature, but the Supreme, or God, is devoid of all these qualities, being transcendental to all material manifestations and their causes. Okay, so let me kind of break this down for you and explain it. What he's saying is that there are many aspects of the Vedas which say that the supreme absolute truth, God, cannot be described in words. There'll be a brilliant answer from Shukadev, so I'm not going to jump to try to do it because he does it so amazingly well. And then he goes on to talk about the second question, which is the Vedas are describing the qualities of material, or the different aspects of material nature, but the Supreme Lord is known to be devoid of qualities. Nirgun is the word that is used by the Vedantists, and we're going to understand about that as well. And he says that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all material manifestations and their causes, right? So in the purport it is explained here, we should understand that the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, creates the cosmos entirely for the living entity's sake. In other words, for our sake. This entire creation was made for our sake. This refers to not only the earth, but also all the planets in the universe. There are trillions of planets in the universe. In fact, there are 2 trillion universes itself. And within that, so many billions of galaxies and stars and umpteen billion, sextillion, I think is the term used, of planets within them. And all of those, some have living entities, and that sum is equal to billions of planets. So the Supreme Lord creates the cosmos entirely for the living entity's sake. This world was created for our sake because of his compassion, which is the sole motive. Now, what is this compassion? What is this thing that is our sake? By providing the living entities with material and subtle bodies, that is, the body, physical body itself, that's the material body, or the gross body, some would say, and the subtle body. Subtle body is mind, intelligence, and ego. So these 3 comprise the subtle body. By providing us, the living entity, with the material and subtle bodies, the Supreme Lord enables us, or enables them, to pursue sense gratification. And in the human form, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So let's first take the first part. By giving us these bodies, God gives us the ability to pursue sense gratification. Many believe that to gratify our senses is the goal of life, to have pleasure, to have fun, to enjoy, right? And how do we enjoy? Through all our senses. We enjoy through our sense of taste, food. We enjoy lovely sounds of music. We enjoy beautiful sights by going to beautiful places and vacations and all of that. We enjoy touch in the form of sensuality and sex. We enjoy, we live to enjoy, right? That's what we work for. That's what we strive for. And we think that the more we have, the more we'll enjoy. And we see people who are on TV and we see them enjoying in various places, and our belief becomes even more fixed. Yes, if only I had more, then I would enjoy more. That's the grand illusion. That is absolutely the grand illusion, as we'll come to see today. So, all living entities strive for sense gratification. The animals, the fish, the insect, the birds, and the humans. But the human does one thing further. The human can engage in dharma. Dharma meaning, some will call it religion, but also can mean morality. It can mean the codes of conduct by which we can live. Animals, their code of conduct is embedded in their DNA. But for us, we have free will. And we can choose all kinds of things. We can choose good and evil. We can choose things that are harmful to us. We can choose things that will poison us, maybe destroy us and sabotage our life. But we can choose whatever it is we want. So we need dharma to regulate us, to regulate our mind, our body, our senses, like that. And then we need artha, we need economic development. We need to make money. Why? So that we can provide safety for our families, for ourselves, and so that we can also provide the next step, which is kama, enjoyment of the senses. But ultimately, when we've seen that none of this has given us satisfaction, we start looking for moksha, or liberation, or as they'll call it in this part of the world, salvation. In each body, the conditioned soul utilizes his senses for enjoyment. And when he comes to the human form, he must also discharge various duties assigned to him at different stages of his life. If he faithfully discharges his duties, he earns more refined and extensive enjoyment in the future. So if you do your dharma, you do your duties, you earn the money, you do what needs to be done, right? You fulfill your duties and responsibilities as a husband, as a wife, as a member of society, as a member of a country, then you get to enjoy life with better and more prosperity in terms of the house you live in terms of the place where you are, in terms of the community, in terms of the kind of restaurants and food and so on and so forth that you have to enjoy with. So by discharging one's duties and living in accordance with society, one is able to enjoy in the future. If not, he is degraded. But when the soul eventually hankers to be freed from material life, the path of liberation is always available. So you're given the choice. Be here, enjoy if all you want. But what we find is that all the enjoyment in the world is not able to satisfy us. That the emptiness remains. It's like we're a bottomless pit and nothing is able to fulfill us. In all their endeavors, the living entities depend on the Supreme Lord's mercy for success. What does he mean by that? Let's see. Without intelligence, senses, mind, and prana, or vital air, the air that flows through the energy, the prana, the life energy that flows through us, we cannot function. We cannot live. Without intelligence, without our senses, without our mind, and without our prana, the life energy, the living entity cannot achieve anything. So we think we're so independent, but if our mind somehow stopped, like if you forgot everything suddenly, like there's been cases of people who had some kind of a stroke or some kind of a thing, and part of their mind stopped. Like there's some cases, of course, where it totally stopped, but there's some cases where part of it stopped. I think it was Jill Bolte who talked about that, how her logical mind stopped. And then the other part of her brain sort of woke up and she was able to perceive things that normally would not have been perceived by a scientist like her. So without the mind, without intelligence, If you had no intelligence to discern between right and wrong, you could get ripped off by someone. You could get cheated. You could get all kinds of things happen to you if you don't have the intelligence to discern things, without the senses to enjoy, or without the life energy that flows through you. The living entity cannot achieve anything. Try and understand this. Where are these things coming from? Why are they there, and why do they sometimes disappear? And who provides this ability? If we are so great as we think we are, and some people would even go so far as to say we are God, then why do we go through death? Why do we go through old age? Why do we have disease? Right? Why would God experience those things? And if science cannot even begin to explain, where does intelligence come from? Where does the ability of the mind come from? What happens when the soul, but when life leaves the body, why can't we bring it back? They think they can figure it out, but they haven't figured it out. They haven't even figured out in science what the universe is made of. They say that about 70% of it is dark matter. Yeah, it's dark energy, and then another 28% is dark matter. They can't figure it out. Then the rest of it is atoms and protons, about 3%, and of that, 99.9% is just air. So really, there's nothing. But then how come all this exists? And how come it has laws that govern it? Is it real? Is it not real? There's so many questions that we could ask. So explaining here that now then, if the Supreme arranges all these facilities for the conditioned soul's welfare, how can he be impersonal? So if all of this is so beautifully orchestrated, that we have life, that we can see and hear and touch and feel, that we can experience and express and talk and communicate and do so many things, you're saying to me that that which created us cannot do this? That is preposterous. If I look at a dog has 4 legs. The child of a dog will also have 4 legs. A human has 2 legs. The child of a human will have 2 legs. You cannot tell me that by looking at me today that my parents did not have 2 legs or 2 arms. They did, because I came from them. So the child, the human, when you look at the human, you begin to understand something about God. You don't understand everything, but you understand something. I'm not saying that God has flesh and blood and bones like we do, but God has a form. And if you say, well, no, God can't have a form, well, why can't God have a form? Like, who are you to say so? By what right do you get to tell me or anyone that God cannot do something that you can do? What's your logic? Explain it. Right? I'd love to hear. Write it in the comments. Write it in anywhere. Discuss it with me. I'd love to know. How do you argue that God is formless? I challenge you. So, far from presenting the absolute truth as ultimately impersonal, the Upanishads speak at great length about his personal qualities. The Vedantist quotes the Upanishads vociferously, claiming that they say that God is impersonal, that he has no form, that he has no qualities, he's nirgun, nirakar, no form, that he has no attributes. There are aspects of the Upanishads that say that. Tattvam asi, you are that. You are the same as the divine. But sameness does not mean you are equal to. You have the qualities of God, but not the quantity, my dear. There is a big difference. A drop of water from the ocean has the qualities of the ocean, but not the quantity. It is not as powerful as the ocean, but yet it has salt in it, and so does the ocean. It is wet, this drop of water. So is the ocean. It has the qualities, but not the quantity. The absolute truth, or God, described by the Upanishads is free from all inferior material qualities. That's how we have to understand it. That God does not have material qualities, he has spiritual qualities. That he has no material form, he has a spiritual form. He is not without form. He is nirgun, meaning no qualities, and yet he has spiritual qualities. He is nirakar, having no form, no material form, and yet he has a spiritual form as he comes when he shows himself again and again through Krishna, through Rama, through so many various incarnations. And yet he is omniscient, omnipotent, the master and controller of all. Although he has a form, yet he is omniscient. He knows everything. He is omnipotent. He has all potencies, the master and controller of all, the universally worshipable Lord. You may think that, oh, my God is the only God, is the only God, your God is the false God. No, 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 no. You make a mistake, my dear. Whatever conception you have of God as the source of creation, as the creator of all, as that which is the fountainhead of all existence, right? Whatever word you want to give it, doesn't matter. Shakespeare said so beautifully, that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And so it is with God. If you call God by a different name, it doesn't matter. You're talking about the same thing. In a particular object, if I take any object, let's take a flower. If you call it in English, you'll say flower. But if you say it in Hindi, it's fool. There are so many different words for the same object. So why not with God? There are so many different people, so many different countries, so many different religions, so many different languages. Of course there's going to be different names, but they mean the same thing. And we need to understand that and get our head out of the sand and stop thinking in such a brainwashed kind of way that my God is the only God. No, he's not. You're being arrogant. You're being foolish. That's the only thing I can tell you. You're not using common sense and logic. You're acting like a brainwashed human being. Exactly. So he is the master and controller of all, the universally worshipable Lord, he who awards the results of everyone's work, of your karma, and the reservoir of all eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He is the reservoir of all, the source of all eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. We all want happiness. We want eternal happiness. We want eternal bliss. He, God, is the reservoir, the source of all bliss. We want knowledge. We've now got AI, and we had the internet for all this time, and we thirsted for knowledge. He is the source of all knowledge. From him comes all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He is the source of eternity. We want to live forever. Every being wants to live forever. From the cockroach all the way to the human, we want to live. We do not want to die. Unless, of course, we've given up on life. But other than that. And so Srila Shukadev gives an indirect reply. He says, Shukadev is the great sage who we were talking about. And he's the one sitting on the throne there. And King Parikshit is asking him questions about the nature of God. So he gives a reply. He says, you say that Brahman, the energy of God, is indescribable by words. You say that. But if the Supreme Lord had not created the intelligence, mind, and senses, then sound and the other objects of perception would all be just as indescribable as your Brahman. Listen to his answer. It's beautiful, amazing. You see, if you did not have intelligence, if you did not have a mind, and if you did not have senses, then how would you describe this world? You could not. You have been given these so that you may describe the world around you. And you have the ability to speak, now you can describe the objects of perception. So similarly, we do not have the correct organs with which to describe the nature of God. We're beginning to, through our microscopes and whatever methods we have got, we have begun to understand the nature of the impersonal aspects of God, the universe, the energy of the universe. But we have nowhere come near close enough to have the ability within us to see God face to face. And many people would say, show me God, then I will believe. Really? Do you have the ability to see God? Do you have the senses to see God? Do you have the mind to perceive and understand God? Is your mind at that vibrational level that you can actually perceive Him? It is said that when the ships arrived somewhere in South America with the Spaniards and the native people who lived there, they could not see those ships because they had never seen a ship. They'd seen small boats. They could see the small boats that the Spaniards were arriving in, but they could not see the ships. The ships were there, but they could not see them because they'd never seen a ship. So it is with God. Even if you saw God, you wouldn't recognize God. If God was standing in front of you, you wouldn't know. That's how blind we are. And we need to own it. And there are others who have elevated their consciousness, purified their heart, reached a level which makes them worthy. And then He reveals Himself to that person. Shukadev continues, you should have been blind and deaf. Suppose you would have been blind and deaf since birth and would know nothing about physical forms and sounds, what to speak of the Absolute or God. So just as the merciful Supreme Lord has given us all faculties of perception for experiencing and describing to others the sensations of sight, sound, and so forth, in the same way He may give someone the receptive capacity to realize Brahman, realize His energy, to be able to see and understand it through a process of what some call awakening. Through His mercy, through His blessings, through His grace, He may give someone the receptive capacity to realize Brahman. He may, if He chooses, create some extraordinary way for words to function that will enable them to express the absolute truth. He is, after all, the Almighty Lord, Prabhu, our Supreme Master, and He can easily make the indescribable describable. The fortunate soul who has been graced by the Supreme Lord with divine inquisitiveness will ask questions about the nature of the Absolute, and by hearing the answers given by great sages which are recorded in the Vedic literatures, he will come to understand the Lord as He is. Thus only by the special mercy of the Supreme Person does Brahman become Shabdaitam, literally denoted by words. In other words, we have to bring that is indescribable into words. And He gives the ability. He gave that ability to Dhruva. The young boy Dhruva was 5 years old when he got into his deep meditation on God. For 6 months, he performed all kinds of austerities in the forest. He left his palace and went there. And it was so moving to see his devotion, his dedication, his determination, that eventually Vishnu, the Supreme Being, revealed Himself to Dhruva. And Dhruva wanted to glorify Vishnu, but he couldn't, the words wouldn't come out. So Vishnu touched him with his conch shell, and with that, in that moment, all the words began to arise. This incident we see being repeated again and again through the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have no quality to understand God, to see God, to describe God, to express the nature of God. We can hear about it from the words of the Bhagavatam. And gradually as we get purified, perhaps one day we too will be touched by that grace and be able to express. Shukadev continues, otherwise without the Supreme Lord's exceptional grace, the words of the Vedas cannot reveal the absolute truth. So you may even hear these words, but the truth will not be revealed to you because you've not made yourself receptive. You've not made yourself open. You've not made yourself willing to hear the truth. Krishna says, just hear the truth from a realized being. He can show you because He has seen the truth. One who has seen it, one who has experienced it, one who knows it from the inside can tell you about it, about the nature of God. That person can put it into words and you can feel the energy that they're expressing and the validity of their experience. The Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Purva 12, states, Sat Paundrika Narayanam Meghabhyam Vaidyu Antarbham. The Supreme Lord, appearing in his two-handed form, had divine lotus eyes, a complexion the color of a cloud, and garments that resembled lightning. He wore a garland of forest flowers, and his beauty was enhanced by his pose of meditative silence. Let's read that again. It's really beautiful and refreshing. The Supreme Lord, appearing in his two-armed form. He does have four-handed forms at times too. But appearing in his, because the special form is the two-armed form. The Supreme Lord, appearing in his two-armed form, had divine lotus eyes, the complexion the color of a cloud, and garments that resembled lightning. He wore a garland of forest flowers, and his beauty was enhanced by his pose of meditative silence. The transcendental intelligence and senses of the Lord's perfect devotees correctly perceive his purely spiritual beauty, and their realizations are echoed here. The transcendental intelligence and senses of the Supreme Lord's perfect devotees means who have been purified, who have become surrendered, what is surrender? That means they've become ready to receive him. Their cup is empty. They have dedicated, devoted themselves and their life to him. That has created the receptivity. Otherwise, there cannot be receptivity. If you are full of yourself, your cup is full of yourself, then you cannot receive God. Your cup needs to be empty. Your cup needs to be, your slate needs to be blank. Your canvas needs to be bare. When you know nothing, when you come with humility, when you recognize that I am nothing, I know nothing, I am worthless, then you have emptied yourself. When you understand, and you do that in front of God, not that you do that with your mind, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, something is wrong with me. Yeah, sure, you're going to get depressed and unhappy and miserable because the ego cannot survive like that. That is the way to kill the ego. But if you kill the ego and you do not fill yourself with God, then you will perish. You will end up destroying yourself because you have not replaced it with anything better. But the depressed person and the spiritual, enlightened person do the same thing. The enlightened person does one thing differently. That as they empty themselves, they fill themselves with the presence of God. They receive him and fill their hearts and their mind and their senses. And it says, therefore, they have transcendental intelligence and senses by which to perceive God, to perceive his purely spiritual beauty. And their realizations are echoed here. On the other hand, devotees on the level of sadhana, so those who are practicing, those of us who are on the path, who are practicing hearing and chanting about God, who are in the process of becoming purified, have only realized the Supreme Lord's boundless spiritual beauty. Nonetheless, by hearing scriptural passages such as this, they engage in contemplating him to the best of their fledgling ability. Although the neophyte or beginner devotee have not yet learned how to fully realize the Lord or meditate steadily on even the effulgence surrounding his body, still they take pleasure in presuming we are meditating on our Lord. See, the beginner presumes that he's meditating on God. And the Supreme Lord, moved by the waves of his boundless mercy, himself thinks, these devotees are meditating on me. See, but in fact, as long as you think I am meditating, that I will block you from actually having the experience or perception of God, and you may even give up. And you may think, oh, why does my mind not become quiet? Why have I not experienced God? Why have I not seen God? I've done everything. Doing everything is not enough. That's a mechanical process. We're just going through the motions. But really speaking, we have to empty ourselves, our knowing, our desires, our conditioning, but ultimately our false sense of identity, that I am this body, that I am male, that I belong to this country, or I belong to this race or this religion. Empty it. Empty all of it. And when it is empty, and then you have surrendered to God, with deepest of humility, he will enter your heart and mind. And then you will be seen by him. And through him and his grace, you will be able to see him. It is not that you can do so by your own effort. It is not that you can do so because of what you are doing or your activities. You cannot, will not, ever be able to perceive God in that way. When their devotion matures, he draws them, God, Krishna, draws them to his feet to engage in his intimate service. Shukadev Goswami said, the Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind, and prana, the vital air of the living entities, so that they could indulge their desires for sense gratification, take repeated births to engage in karmic or fruitive activities, become elevated in future lives, and ultimately attain liberation. Those who came in the past, our ancient predecessors, meditate upon the same confidential knowledge of the absolute truth. Indeed, anyone who faithfully concentrates on this knowledge will become free from material attachments and attain the final goal of life. So he's pointing out that this was spoken 7,000 years ago. And he's saying our predecessors, going back thousands of years, practiced the same process, and they became free from material attachment and attained the final goal. The problem is not with material things, as some people think. It's not about giving up material things. You can't give up material things. You can't give up desire. You can't give up attachment. That is not possible. But you can shift your attachments from the things of this world, which are temporal, means temporary, to that which is eternal. Become attached to God. You can shift your desires from the things of this world to desiring God. You can shift your attachment to God. Attachment is that this is mine. And as long as you think the things of this world are yours, the people of this world, my husband, my wife, my dog, my cat, my house, my car, as long as you're caught up in this as your identity, then you are attached to the world. Because you think these things are yours, but no, you are owned by these things and these people. And when they need you, you have to serve them. Your car has a breakdown, you have to serve your car. Your dog needs to go out, you got to take him out. Your husband or wife needs something, you're there to fulfill their wishes, and they're there to fulfill yours. Your children need something, you're there for them. You think they're yours, but in fact, they have you serving them. They have you attached to them. You're a prisoner of all of your things. We think we are free, but we are not. So the idea is to shift our attachment. Attachment will not stop. We will shift our attachment from the attachment to the things of the world to the attachment to God, recognizing that everything belongs to him. Our children belong to him. Our spouse belongs to him. Our house and our car and everything belongs to him. And by serving them, by taking care of them, we're taking care of him. As long as you keep that focus in your mind, you will be connected to him. Through everything you do, you will be connected to him. But if you're doing it just for your pleasure, because most of the time we're doing it for our pleasure, we're doing whatever we do because we have some expectation, but our husband, our wife, our car is supposed to serve us, supposed to give us some pleasure, give us some enjoyment. And if they're not, well then, we leave them and go somewhere else. If it's an object, we'll do it very quickly. And if it's a partner, we might do a little harder. But it's such a strange life. Everything that we do is selfish. Everything is selfish. And to break that selfishness, to break that narcissism that we have, is the goal of life. As we break it, then we enter into the realm of God. It's not about going from selfish to unselfish. It's not about going from, I'm going to take care of me and me alone, and then now I'm going to take care of others and everybody else. But even there is a selfish desire. Oh, you want liberation and salvation. Oh, even that's a selfish desire. You want freedom. You want moksha. You want liberation. I want, I need, I am. Drop it. Drop it all. And then the journey begins. You. Tu hi tu. You are everything. You are my everything. You are my all. You are all that exists. You, O God, are everything. In the purport it is written, this confidential knowledge concerning the absolute truth should not be doubted, since it has been passed down through authoritative lines of learned sages from time immemorial. One who cultivates the science of the Supreme with reverence, avoiding the distractions of karmic rituals and mental speculation of karma yoga and jnana yoga. These are the different paths people follow. Such a person will learn to give up the false designations of material body and mundane society, and thus will become eligible for perfection. In this connection, I will relate to you a narration concerning the Supreme Lord Narayan. It is about a conversation that once occurred between Sri Narayan Rishi and Narad Muni. So there is a time that the Supreme Being expands into various forms, many forms. Right? One of those forms is Narayan Rishi, Narayan. And the original expansion, of course, is the, I guess you could say the first and original expansion. No, we'll come to that. Is Vishnu. And from him all the universes emanate. You may say, oh, how is that possible? Well, beyond my pay grade to explain that. But that is the vision that great sages and rishis have had. How the universe emanates from the Supreme Being. And then we have his presence as the Narayan, human and divine in one coming together, Nara and Narayan. And they come to be able to bless the world. So that is the form of Narayan Rishi. And Narad Muni, the great sage, had come to meet with Narayan. Once while traveling among the various planets of the universe, the Lord's beloved devotee, Narad, went to visit the primal sage Narayan at his ashram. Right? So let me go back over that again. From the very beginning of Brahma's day, from the beginning of creation, Narayan Rishi has been undergoing severe and austere penances in the land of Bharat. Bharat is the original name for India, while perfectly performing religious duties and exemplifying the spiritual knowledge and self-control, all for the benefit of human beings, both in this world and the next. So the Supreme Being, God, is not only present in the spiritual world and is not only present as Vishnu, giving rise to the creation of the material existence, but is also present within the material world as Narayan Rishi, and who is meditating for the welfare, the benefit of all human beings in this world, wishing them well, wanting them to prosper, wanting them to be able to ultimately realize the truth about creation, that it was all created so we may have the choices, but ultimately choose Him, ultimately choose our freedom from this world. So the sage Narad approached Narayan Rishi, who was sitting amid sages of the village of Kalapa. After bowing down, Narad asked him the very same question you have asked me. That's what Shukadeva is saying. As the sages listened, Narayan Rishi related to Narad an ancient discussion about the absolute truth that took place amongst the residents of Janalok. Janalok is a planet, very evolved planet, place where very evolved beings live. Narayan Rishi, the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, said, O son of the self-born Brahma, once long ago on Janalok, wise sages who resided there performed a great sacrifice to the absolute truth by vibrating transcendental sounds. Transcendental sounds are sounds like Om, or the chanting of the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, or the Gayatri mantra. These sages, the sons of Brahma who had originated from his mind, were all perfect celibates. At that time, you, Narad, happen to be visiting the Supreme Lord on Shvetadvip, that Supreme Lord in whom the Vedas lie down to rest during the period of universal annihilation. A lively discussion arose among the sages on Janalok as to the nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Indeed, the same question arose that you are asking me now. The question being asked is about, is God personal or impersonal? That's really the question. Very simple question, just to put it in simple words. Although these sages were all equally qualified in terms of Vedic study and austerity, and although they all saw friends, enemies, and neutral parties equally, so they had what is called samadrishti, which means they see everyone as the same. They do not differentiate between a friend and an enemy. They see everyone as the same. They chose out of their number to be the speaker, the most eager. They chose one of them to be the speaker, and the rest became eager listeners. So that person they chose was Sri Sanandana. Sri Sanandana replied, after the Supreme Lord withdrew the universe he had previously created, in other words, when the entire universe was dissolved, when Mahavishnu is known to breathe out, the entire universe comes into creation, and when he breathes in, that same universe is entirely dissolves into him. We saw pictures of the universe of Mahavishnu as he inhales, the universe is destroyed, and as he exhales, all the universes with all their galaxies are created all over again. So at this point, when all the universes had been dissolved, he lay for some time as if asleep, and all his energies rested dormant within him. When the time came for the next creation, the personified Vedas awakened him by chanting his glories. So what do they mean by the personified Vedas? The Vedas are ancient texts. They were written and recorded 5,000 years ago. One might say around 7,000 years ago. And they consist of 4 parts: the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda. They're not 4 books. They're run into hundreds of books, but they're in 4 parts. So we're just going to speak of them like that. But these 4 parts form the essence of the Vedas. So the Vedas personified, okay, this knowledge has its personified aspect. Just as God has a personified aspect and God has a non-personified aspect. The Vedas also have a personified aspect. The personified Vedas began chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Vishnu as he lay there in his mystic slumber. Just as poets serving a king approach him at dawn and awaken him by reciting his heroic deeds. The Shruti part of the Vedas said, Jaya Jaya, victory to you, O Ajita, O unconquerable one. By your very nature you are perfectly full in all opulences. Therefore please defeat the eternal power of illusion. So he's powerful in all opulences means, that's the meaning of Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who has all bhagya, all opulences, all good fortune, possesses all knowledge, possesses all fame, all beauty, all strength, all detachment, and all power, and all wealth. So, you who are undefeatable, please defeat the eternal power of illusion of Maya, who assumes control over the modes of nature, 3 modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, which create difficulties for conditioned souls. So you who are undefeatable, unconquerable, please defeat the eternal power of illusion, which assumes control over the modes of nature, which then create difficulties for the conditioned souls. O you who awaken all the energies of the moving and non-moving embodied beings, sometimes the Vedas can recognize you as you sport with your material and spiritual potencies. So when he appears in this world, he sports, he plays with his material and spiritual potencies. And that's why we see the Leela of Krishna and of Ram and the various incarnations all through the Bhagavatam as we've been reading. The purport, it is said, a verse appears in the Shvetashvatra Upanishad 6.11, Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Uttara 97, Uttara 97, and Brahma Upanishad 4.1. Eko Deva Parabhuteshu Gudaha. The one Supreme Lord lives hidden inside all created things. Meaning all created things, all aspects of the creation. He lies hidden within the energy of the universe. The one Supreme Lord lives hidden inside all created things. Sarva Vyapi Sarva Bhuta Antaratmana. He pervades all matter and sits within the hearts of all living beings. So not only does he pervade the entire creation, in every atom of the creation, in every molecule, in every quark of the creation, he also sits within the heart of all living beings. Whether you believe or don't believe doesn't matter. He's there trying to guide you. He's there being the witness of everything that's going on. Karma Adhyaksha Sarva Bhuta Divasha. As the indwelling Paramatma, the super soul, he supervises the activities of every living entity. Sakshi Cheta Kevalo Nirgunascha. While having no material qualities himself, Nirguna, right? Nirguna meaning no material. He has no gunas. Gunas are Traigunya. Traigunya refers to three modes of nature. So he does not have those gunas. Therefore, he is Nirguna. He has no material qualities. While having no material qualities himself, he is the unique witness, Sakshi, and giver of consciousness, Chetaha. In Brahma Samhita, it is written, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koteshva Shesha Vasudhati Vibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, Krishna, the primeval Lord. Primeval meaning who's there from the beginning. He's the original supreme Lord of everything, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, the energy of the universe, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets and their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. So they were already aware at that time, thousands of years ago, that there are millions and millions of universes, and there are living beings on them. This perceivable world is identified with the Supreme because the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate foundation of all existence, remaining unchanged as all created things are generated from him and at last dissolved into him, just as clay remains unchanged by the products made from it and again merged with it. Thus it is toward you alone that the Vedic sages direct all their thoughts, words, and acts. After all, how can the footsteps of men fail to touch the earth on which they live? Some part of the Vedas seem to glorify Indra and call him king of all moving and non-moving beings. So Indra is one of the devas, the king of the demigods, just like you have Zeus and Thor. So Indra is, some parts of the Vedas seem to glorify Indra and call him king of all moving and non-moving beings. Others glorify Agni, the god of fire. Agni is the chief of the heavens, the Vedas say. And yet other mantras point to different deities as the absolute. It would seem then that the Vedas present a polytheistic worldview. This is what most people think. There are 33 million gods in the Vedic culture, and therefore this is all nonsense, and they can't have 33 million gods. How is it possible? No, there are 33 million devas or demigods. They are living beings just like you and I. They are not God. They are in charge of the different aspects of the universe. Answering this doubt, the Vedas themselves explain in this verse that there can only be one source of universal creation called Brahman, or Brihat, the greatest, which is the singular truth underlying and pervading all existence. No finite deity like Indra or Agni can fulfill this unique role. Vishnu alone is the absolute truth. Indra and other demigods may be glorified in various ways, but they possess only those powers Vishnu has granted them. Just as a man's footsteps, whether placed on mud, stone, or bricks, cannot fail to touch the surface of the earth, so whatever the Vedas discuss within the realm of material generation, they relate to the absolute truth. Mundane literature describes limited phenomena, disregarding the relation of its subjects to the total reality. So, mundane literature does not see the connection of various aspects of the world, and how they connect to God, the total reality. But the Vedas always focus their perfect vision on the Supreme. So they describe the different aspects of reality, the different devas, the different aspects of creation, the impersonal, the personal, everything. And then they give you the connection, how it all connects back to that Supreme Godhead. As the Chandogya Upanishad affirms, Sarvam Khala Vidam Brahma, reality is understood properly when everything is seen to be dependent on Brahman, the Absolute, for its existence. Brahman alone is real. Not because nothing we see in this world is real. There's a saying in the Vedantis that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, the world is false, and that the Brahman is the ultimate truth, and therefore that's the only thing that's real. Brahma Satyam, it is Satyam, it is the real truth. But he's saying, no, Brahman alone is real, not because nothing we see in this world is real, but because Brahman is the absolute final cause of everything. So the Supreme Being is the absolute final cause of everything. But it doesn't mean that the world is false. It means that the world is illusory, but not false. It is a very real illusion. You go bump your head against something, it will hurt. You go get hit by a car or by whatever else, you will get hurt or die. In Krishna, the Supreme, the Srila Prabhupada described in the book Krishna, Srila Prabhupada writes, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna admits that Krishna is the Para-Brahman. He is the Supreme Brahman, the foundation upon which everything rests. Krishna is the Supreme Brahman because of his unlimited knowledge, unlimited potencies, unlimited strength, unlimited influence, unlimited beauty, and unlimited renunciation. Therefore, the word Brahman can be applied to Krishna only. Arjuna affirms that because the impersonal energy of God, Brahman, is the effulgence emanating as the rays of Krishna's transcendental body, Krishna is therefore the Para-Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, the ultimate. Everything is resting on Brahman, but Brahman itself is resting on Krishna. Everything is resting on Brahman, but Brahman itself is resting on Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the ultimate Brahman or Para-Brahman. The material elements are accepted as inferior energy of Krishna because of their interaction with the cosmic, and because of their interaction, the cosmic manifestation takes place. It then rests on Krishna, and after dissolution again enters into the body of Krishna as his subtle energy. Krishna is therefore the cause of both manifestation and dissolution. Therefore, Narada is saying to Narayan Rishi, O master of the three worlds, the wise get rid of all misery by diving deep into the nectarian ocean of topics about you, which washes away all the contamination of the universe. And what to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength rid their minds of bad habits and freed themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, Supreme One, and within it find uninterrupted bliss. So, just by hearing the nectarian ocean of topics about the Supreme Godhead, our contaminations within our heart, within our mind, within our desires, within our ego get washed away. Then, what to speak of those who have pursued it further and rid their minds of bad habits and freed themselves from the influence of time and their attachments to things, and who then worship God and find within Him and within that process uninterrupted bliss. In the purport it is said, because all the Vedas declare the supremacy of the personality of Godhead as the cause of all causes, discriminating persons should take to his worship. By diving into the ocean of his glories, intelligent devotees help dispel the distress of all souls and loosen their own burning attachment to materialistic life. By diving into the ocean of his glories, intelligent devotees help dispel the darkness, the distress of all souls, and loosen their own burning attachment to materialistic life. You have a burning attachment. That's such an incredibly powerful statement. That it gets loosened, that grip that we have on this world, on this reality gets loosened. We begin to see that we are not this mind, we are not these bodies. We stop identifying with the desires and the pull of this mind and of this body and of this ego to go in a certain direction. We start being able to witness it, and we start being able to pull it back from where it's trying to go and then redirect it towards God. These advancing devotees gradually give up all material attachment and lose any interest they once had in troublesome austerities of karma, jnana, and yoga. Beyond these devotees are the Suris, the connoisseurs of spiritual truth. Connoisseurs of spiritual truth. I just love that expression. Who honor the nectarian ocean of the Supreme Lord's glories by immersing themselves fully within it. These mature devotees of the Supreme Lord achieve unimaginable perfection. The Lord, reciprocating their sincere endeavors, empowers them to realize Him in His personal form. Remembering with rapture the Supreme Lord's intimate pastimes, they are automatically freed from the last subtle traces of mental contamination and suffering in this world. Only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of a bellows. Bellows are these ways in which they sort of pump this thing, and it blows air into the when the person is what is it called? Or they make metal objects, right? I forget the word right now. But when they're making those, they're melting the metal, they need a bellows to pump air so that the fire gets bigger, and then it can melt the iron or whatever it is they're melting. They're the ones who, like they work with iron and steel and that kind of thing. And they create various things from weapons to whatever. So only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe, like all of us, actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of the bellows, just a mechanical thing, right? We are not actually alive, is what he's saying. We look like we're alive. We seem to be alive. We're breathing. Yes, our heart is pumping. We're not actually alive. It is by your mercy alone that the elements, beginning with the Mahatattva and false ego, created the egg of this universe. Among the manifestations known as Annamaya and so forth, you are the ultimate one entering within the material coverings along with the living entity and assuming the same forms as those he takes. So when he comes here, he comes in a form that looks human, but it is his own transcendental spiritual form. It appears to be like he appears to be like one of us, and yet different. Distinct from the gross and subtle material manifestations, you are the reality underlying them all. In the Agni Purana, it is said, there are two kinds of created beings in this world, Daivya, Asura, Evacha, godly and Asuric. Sometimes loosely translated as demonic, but I would like you to have a better understanding. Vishnu Bhakti Para Divya, those dedicated to the devotional service of Vishnu are Divya or divine beings. So those who worship God are divine beings and are godly. And the Asuras tad Viprayayaha, are those opposed to such service, and they are to be known as Asuras. Therefore, the people who are opposed to the worship of God are known to be Asuras or demonic. And I would go one step further to say those who are opposed to the worship of any person who is worshiping God, so whether you belong to a religion and now you oppose another religion, no, that is also Asuric. As long as that person is genuinely engaged in the service of God, and that God is not a God who's a warmonger or believes in telling you to hurt other people or at the consequence of hurting others, therefore you are now religious. No, that is not God. God doesn't do that. Not unless we're talking about destroying the asuras of the world, the troublemakers, the warmongers, the people who are causing the chaos and confusion in the world, then yes, such people are asuras and need to be wiped out, as was done with Hitler, as was done in the time of the Mahabharata when Krishna was telling Arjuna to fight. Yes, that needs to happen. But when someone is hurting, abusing godly people, that person is also an asura. Doesn't matter if if he's just simply talking from his religion to another religion. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. It doesn't matter. One who hates or causes trouble to those who are devoted to God is against God. Krishna says very clearly that one who hurts my devotees hurts me. You cannot love God but not love his people. In fact, it is only through his people that you will come to God. You will not come to God directly. That has to be very clear. Krishna assures us in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Engage your mind in always thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisance to me and worship me. Mame vaishyasi yukta evam atmanam matparayana. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. And the Katha Upanishad says, Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vididhati kaman. Among all the eternal conscious beings, there is one who supplies the needs of everyone. The wise souls who worship him in his abode attain everlasting peace. Others cannot. What is alive and what is dead? The bodies and minds of materialistic persons seem to display the symptoms of life, but this appearance is deceptive. Actually, the conditioned soul has little control over his own bodily existence. Against his will, he has to excrete waste, get sick from time to time, and eventually age and die. And in his mind, he unwillingly suffers anger, hankering, and lamentation. Krishna describes this situation as yantra rudhani mayaya in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 61. Riding helplessly as a passenger in a mechanical vehicle, his body, the soul undoubtedly is alive and irrevocably so. But in his ignorance, that inner life is covered and forgotten. So our soul is covered and forgotten, although he's a passenger in this vehicle. In its place, the automation of the external mind and body carries out the dictates of the modes of nature, which force one to act in a way, although irrelevant, to the dormant needs of the soul. So think about it. How often are we thinking about the needs of the soul? We're only thinking about what the body needs, what the mind needs. We're not thinking about what the soul needs. The real person is the soul, not the mind, not the body. You're not the mind, you're not the body. You have a mind and body, but that's not you. Calling out to the forgetful prisoners of illusion, the Shvetashvatra Upanishad urges, all you sons of immortality, we are as souls, are all the children, the sons and daughters of immortality. Hear, you who once resided in the divine kingdom. Among the followers of the method set forth by great sages, those with less refined vision worship the Supreme as present in the region of the abdomen. Now he's talking about a whole meditation process. So they meditate on the portion in the region of the abdomen, while the Arunis worship him as present in the heart, in the subtle center from which all the pranic channels emanate. From there, O unlimited Lord, these worshippers raise their consciousness towards the top of their head, where they can perceive you directly. So this is the yogic practice. This is not the bhakti practice. This is the yoga practice. And it is some of those who actually attain God. But it's very difficult, very challenging, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Then, passing through the top of the head towards the supreme destination, they reach that place from which they will never again fall into this world, into the mouth of death. In the purport is written, here the Shrutis who teach meditational yoga glorify the personality of Godhead. The various processes of yoga are for the most part gradual and full of opportunities for distraction. Authentic methods of yoga, nonetheless, all aim at meditation on the Paramatma, the Super Soul, whose primary residence is in the region of the heart, alongside with the soul. This manifestation of the Paramatma in the heart is very subtle and difficult to perceive. As it says here, dharam, and thus only advanced yogis can realize him there. Neophyte meditators often practice focusing on the supersoul's or the Paramatma's secondary presence in one of the lower centers of vital energy, such as the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine, Swadhisthana chakra in the area of the navel, or the Manipur chakra in the abdomen. In the judgment of the Shrutis speaking this verse, this is the Shrutis of the parts of the Vedas speaking this verse, those who limit their meditation to this form of the Lord are less intelligent. Kripa drisha, meaning literally having dust clouding their eyes. The superior yogis known as Arunis, on the other hand, worship the supersoul, the Paramatma, in his form as the indwelling companion of the jiva, of the living entity, in the heart, who endows the living entity with the power of knowledge and inspires him with all varieties of practical intelligence. And just as the physical heart is the center of blood circulation, so the subtle heart chakra is the crossroads of numerous channels of prana called nadis, which extend outward to all parts of the body. So just like the heart pumps blood to everywhere, similarly the heart chakra has various channels which channel the prana energy through what are called nadis, all through to the different parts of the bodies. When these passageways have been sufficiently purified, the Aruni yogis can leave the heart region and go upward to the chakra at the roof of the brain. Yogis who leave their bodies through this chakra, the Brahmarandra, go directly to the kingdom of God, from which they never return to be reborn. The Chandogya Upanishad 866 says, there are 101 subtle pranic channels emanating from the heart chakra. One of these, the Shushumna, extends to the top of the head. By passing up through this channel, one transcends death. The other channels lead in all directions to various kinds of rebirth. Except for that one, the rest lead to various kinds of rebirth. So what I want you to know is that this yogic practice is very difficult and may not always lead to the process of liberation. The practice that we follow is the practice of bhakti, a devotional service to the Supreme Lord. That, as Krishna promises, is the surefire way to reach him. Apparently entering among the variegated species of living beings, you, Narayan Rishi, you inspire them to act, manifesting yourself according to their higher and lower positions, just as fire manifests differently according to the shape of what it burns. Therefore, those of spotless intelligence who are altogether free from material attachments realize your undifferentiated, unchanging self to be the permanent reality among all these impermanent life forms. You see, proponents of Advaita philosophy see no essential distinction between the Supreme Soul and his creation. In the impersonalist conception, the Absolute has inexplicably gotten itself trapped by illusion and has thus become first a personal God and then the demigods, humans, animals, plants, and finally matter. Shankaracharya and his followers take great pains to cite Vedic evidence to support this theory of how illusion is imposed on the Absolute. But speaking for themselves, the Vedas here answer this objection and refuse to lend their authority to the Mayavad or impersonalistic teachings. The process of creation is technically called Srishti, sending forth. The Supreme Lord sends forth his variegated energies, and these partake of his nature while remaining distinct from him. This fact is expressed in the true Vedic philosophy of Achintya Bhed Abhed Tattva, the inconceivable and simultaneous oneness and difference of the Supreme Lord and his energies. So God is one with his energies and yet different from them, simultaneously, inconceivably. Thus, although each of these multitude of individual souls is a distinct entity, all souls consist of the same spiritual substance as the Supreme. So we consist of the same substance as God, but only in quality, not in quantity. Since they partake of the Supreme Lord's spiritual essence, the jivas, the living entities, are therefore unborn and eternal. So we're all living We're all unborn and eternal, just as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 12. Natva evam jatu nasam natvam neme janadipaha na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayam ataha param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. The individual living entity, while inhabiting the material body he has created for himself by his karma. Interesting that it says the living entity, you and I, inhabits a material body which we have created for ourselves by our karma. So the living entity actually remains, the soul actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. The soul remains unaffected or untouched by this creation of this body, mind, organism that we live in. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of God, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of the living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered and which are the source of liberation. My Lord, some fortunate souls have gotten relief from the fatigue of material life by diving into the vast nectar ocean of your pastimes, which you enact when you manifest your personal forms to propagate the unfathomable science of the self, as we saw in the case of when Krishna appears in this world. These rare souls, indifferent even to liberation, renounce the happiness of home and family because of their association with devotees who are like flocks of swans enjoying at the lotus of your feet. So the purport here states the ritualistic Brahmins, Smarthas, and the impersonalists or Mayavadis always try to relegate the process of bhakti yoga, devotion to God, as a relatively minor role. They say that devotion to the personality of Godhead is for sentimental persons who lack the maturity to observe strict rituals or pursue the rigorous culture of jnana or knowledge. Does any of this sound like it's sentimental? In this verse, however, the glorified Vedas, personified Vedas, most emphatically declare the super excellence of devotional service, clearly identifying it with Atma Tattva, the science of the self that impersonalists so proudly claim as their own domain. Srila Jiva Goswami here defines Atma Tattva as the confidential mystery of the Supreme Lord's personal form, qualities, and pastimes. He mentions that the phrase Atatanaho can mean who assumes various bodies or he who attracts everyone to his transcendental body. The pastimes of Krishna and his various expansions and incarnations are an unfathomable ocean of enjoyment. When a person comes to the point of complete exhaustion in his material pursuits, whether he has been searching after material success or some impersonal notion of spiritual annihilation, he can gain relief by submerging himself in this nectar. As Srila Rupa Goswami explains in his book on the science of Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, one who tastes even a single drop of this vast ocean of nectar will forever lose all desire for anything else. That is the nectar of the pastimes of Sri Krishna, the entire Bhagavatam as we've been reading. When this human body is used for your devotional service, it acts as one's self, friend and beloved. But unfortunately, although you always show mercy to the conditioned souls and affectionately help them in every way, and although you are their true self, people in general fail to delight in you. Instead, they commit spiritual suicide by worshipping Maya or illusion. Alas, because they persistently hope for success in their devotion to the unreal, to the illusory, to Maya, to this world, they continue to wander about this greatly fearful world, assuming various degraded bodies. Simply by constantly thinking of the Supreme Lord, the enemies of the Lord attain the same supreme truth whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. So those who hated Krishna when he was there attained the same liberation that great yogis have attained by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. For you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. See, Krishna has what is called samadrishti. He sees everyone as the same. He has special favoritism for those who come to him with love. But at the same time, he sees everyone as the same. And anyone who in his heart focuses on him, meditates on him, he takes hold of them, brings them to him. Everyone in this world has recently been born and will soon die. So how can anyone here know him who existed prior to everything else and who gave rise to the first learned sage Brahma and all subsequent demigods, both lesser and greater? When he, or Vishnu, lies down and withdraws everything within himself, nothing else remains. No gross or subtle matter or bodies composed of these, or no force of time or revealed scripture. Supposed authorities who declare that matter is the origin of existence, that the permanent qualities of the soul can be destroyed, that the self is compounded of separate aspects of spirit and matter, or that material transactions constitute reality. All such authorities base their teachings on mistaken ideas that hide the truth. The dualistic conception that the living entities produced from the three modes of nature is simply a product of ignorance. He's talking about all our scientists, he's talking about all our philosophers who say that, there's no God, there's just nature, and there's just from nature everything comes about. Well, they call that ignorance here. And who is calling it ignorance? The Vedas themselves, personified. Such a conception has no real basis in you, for you are transcendental to all illusion and always enjoy perfect, total awareness. The three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, comprise everything in this world, from the simplest phenomena to the complex human body. Although these phenomena appear real, they are only a false reflection of the spiritual reality, being a superimposition of the mind upon you. Still, those who know the Supreme Self consider the entire material creation to be real inasmuch as it is non-different from the Self, the Supreme Self. Just as things made of gold are indeed not to be rejected since their substance is actual gold, so this world is undoubtedly non-different from the Lord who created it and then entered within it. The devotees who worship you as the shelter of all beings disregard death and place your lotus feet on their head. But with the words of the Vedas, you bind the non-devotees like animals, though they may be vastly learned scholars. It is your affectionate devotees who can purify themselves and others, not those who are inimical to you. Though you have no material senses, you are the self-effulgent sustainer of everyone's sensory powers. The demigods and material nature herself offer you tribute, while also enjoying the tribute offered them by their worshippers. Just as subordinate rulers of various districts in a kingdom offer tribute to their lord, the ultimate proprietor of the land, while also enjoying the tribute paid them by their subjects. In this way, the universal creators faithfully execute their assigned services out of fear of you. So he's saying that people worship the different demigods. They worship Kali, they worship Durga, they worship Ganesh, they worship the different demigods or devas. But in all of that worship, which is received by those devas, they themselves, devas, are worshipping Vishnu. Shiva is worshipping Vishnu. You need to understand that. All of them worship Vishnu. And Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna. So he is the ultimate Godhead. Therefore he is called the Supreme Adi Purusham. Govindam Adi Purusham. Amaham Bhajami. I worship you. You who are the original, the Adi Purush, the original person. O eternally liberated, transcendental Supreme Lord, your material energy causes the various moving and non-moving species of life to appear by activating their material desires. So basically what causes us to be in this world is our material desires. If we didn't have desires, then we would not be here. It's very simple. Our karma and our desires keep us bound. Our desires control us. They possess us. We do not possess anything we desire. The desires are the one that consume us, burn us up as if we were in a fire. It only when and if you sport with her, with the illusion, by briefly glancing at her, you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, see no one as an intimate friend and no one as a stranger, just as the ethereal sky has no connection with perceptible qualities. In this sense, you resemble a void. Meaning he is not partial to anyone, just as the sky is not partial to anyone. The sun shines on everyone. The sky is there for everyone, whether you hate or you love, it doesn't matter. If the countless living entities were all pervading and possessed forms that never changed, you could not possibly be their absolute ruler, O immutable one. But since they are your localized expansions, we are all expansions of him. Right? We're tiny expansions of him, like little, like sun rays, spreading everywhere. We are those particles of sun rays expanding from God. But since they are your localized expansions and their forms are subject to change, you do control them. Indeed, that which supplies the ingredients for the generation of something is necessarily its controller, because a product never exists apart from its ingredient cause. So he is the cause of all of us. And because he is the cause, Sarva Karana Karanam, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. He is the original cause of the creation and the maintenance and the existence of everything. It is simply illusion for someone to think that he knows the Supreme Lord, who is equally present in each of his expansions, since whatever knowledge one gains by material means must indeed be imperfect. Neither material nature nor the soul who tries to enjoy her are ever born. Yet living bodies come into being when those two combine, just as bubbles form where water meets the air. And just as rivers merge into the ocean, or the nectar from many different flowers blends into honey, so also these conditioned beings eventually merge back into you, the Supreme, along with their various names and qualities. The wise souls who understand how your illusion, your Maya, deludes all human beings, render potent loving service to you, who are the source of liberation from birth and death. How indeed can fear of material life affect your faithful servants? On the other hand, your furrowing eyebrows, the triple-rimmed wheel of time, repeatedly terrify those who refuse to take shelter of you. The devotee has no fear because he knows Krishna's got my back. I am his and he is mine. The mind is like an impetuous horse that even persons who have regulated their senses and breath cannot control. Those in this world who try to tame the uncontrolled mind, but who abandon the feet of their spiritual master, encounter hundreds of obstacles in their cultivation of various distressful practices. O unborn Lord, they are like merchants on a boat in the ocean who have failed to employ a helmsman. Meaning, you need a spiritual master to help you in being able to control your mind, to receive the grace of the divine, to be able to overcome the obstacles of this world. Is vital. To those persons who take shelter of you, you reveal yourself as the Paramatma, the Super Soul, the embodiment of all transcendental pleasure. What further use have such devotees for their servants, children, or bodies, their wives, money, or houses, their land, good health, or conveyances? For those who fail to appreciate the truth about you and go about pursuing the pleasures of sex and material enjoyment, what could there be in this entire world? Place inherently doomed to destruction and devoid of significance. What could there be that could give them real happiness? So people who've devoted themselves to enjoyment in the world never find it. It's like a mirage in a desert that's constantly avoiding them. They're always going towards it and it keeps disappearing. And they think, I'll go a little further, a little further, a little further. I'll find it. I'll get what I've been looking for. I'll finally be satisfied. I'll finally be free. I'll finally be happy. But it never happens. And all right to their last days, and sometimes even in their old age, they're still pursuing some kind of sensual pleasure and happiness. And it never satisfies them. And they're never free. And they're never content. But one who has even tasted a little drop of the nectar of bhakti, of devotion, of love of God, is forever free. Sages free from false pride live on this earth by frequenting the sacred pilgrimage sites and those places where the Supreme Lord displayed his pastimes. Because such devotees keep your lotus feet within their heart, the water that washes their feet destroys all sins. Anyone who even once turns his mind toward you, the ever blissful soul of all existence, no longer dedicates himself to serving family life at home, which simply robs a person of their good qualities. Now, if your home is a place that is devoted to God, where you worship God together as a husband and wife, or as a couple, or as a partners, then it becomes a transcendental place. But if in that home all you're doing is pursuing material enjoyment, then yes, it is a hellish place. It may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. Such an argument is subject to logical refutation. Sometimes, indeed, the apparent non-difference of a cause and its effect fails to prove true. So, meaning, because God is permanent and eternal, one could say that this world, which is an emanation of his energy, is also permanent and real. But there's a problem with this argument. That's what they're saying here. Furthermore, this world cannot be permanently real, for it partakes of the natures of not only the absolute reality, but also the illusion disguising that reality. So it is the influence of Maya, or the illusory energy, that disguises the real nature of this world. We do not see the energy of this world. We see the forms that emanate from it, like waves that come out of the ocean. We see the forms that emanate, like trees and mountains and houses and people. But we do not see the energy underlying it. We do not see that reality because it is covered over by the illusions of this world. And our senses are designed to perceive those illusions and interact with them. But as such, those illusions are illusions. Just as when you put on a virtual reality headset, it's an illusory world out there. There is no real world there. They're all bits of data. And those bits of data form together to generate an illusory world. It's the same with this world that we see here. This is the ultimate virtual reality headset, right here. This is it. And you're wearing it. You don't need to create it. You've been wearing it all your life. Actually, the visible forms of this world are just an imaginary arrangement resorted to by a succession of ignorant persons in order to facilitate their material affairs. With their various meanings and implications, the learned words of the Vedas bewilder all persons whose minds have been dulled by hearing the incantations of sacrificial rituals. So people perform the rituals of the Vedas to get their material desires fulfilled, and that was part of the Vedic knowledge. But ultimately, Krishna says, I am the source of all. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. I am the source of all the Vedas, and by all the Vedas am I to be known. Ultimately, the goal of the Veda is to bring you to God. While showing you how to live in this world, work your way towards that. Work your way to freeing yourself from your attachments to this world. Since this universe did not exist prior to its creation, and will no longer exist after its annihilation, we conclude that in the interim, it is nothing more than a manifestation imagined to be visible within you, whose spiritual enjoyment never changes. We liken this universe to the transformation of various material substances into diverse forms. Certainly those who believe that this figment of the imagination is substantially real are less intelligent. The illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity, us, to embrace her. So the illusory material nature attracts us, the minute living entity, to embrace her, the world. And as a result, the living entity assumes forms composed of the qualities of illusion. Subsequently, he loses all his spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated deaths. You, however, avoid the material energy in the same way that a snake abandons its old skin. Glorious in your possession of 8 mystic perfections, you enjoy unlimited opulences. Members of the renounced order of sannyasis, those who are renunciates, who fail to uproot the last traces of material desire in their hearts remain impure, and thus you do not allow them to understand you. So basically, it's the material desires that prevent us from being able to understand God. As long as we have them, we're going to want something out of Him, and therefore we cannot know Him. We can only know Him when we are purified of our desires, of our karma. Although you are present within their hearts, for them you are like a jewel worn around the neck of a man who has totally forgotten it is there. That's a great example. A person wears a jewel around their neck and then forgets that it's there. Right? In the same way, God exists within us, but we have forgotten that He's there. He's all around us, but we've forgotten that He's there. O Lord, those who practice yoga only for sense gratification must suffer punishment both in this life and the next. Think about it. Most people who practice yoga only practice it because they want to look good, they want their health to be good, they want their body to be slim, or if those who are more sincere, maybe want at the most to gain some mystical powers or maximum liberation from this world. But all of that is for sense enjoyment, right? So those who practice yoga only for sense gratification must suffer punishment both in this life and the next from death. Not that there's punishment, but it's just, they will go through the experience of death, who will not release them, and from you whose kingdom they cannot reach. They will never reach the kingdom of God in that way, because their practice of yoga is tainted with desire for sense gratification. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from pious deeds and sinful acts. Since it is you alone who control this good and bad fortune. So he first realizes, I don't care about my past karma, I don't care about my good and bad deeds. What I care about is God. I care about Krishna. I care about surrendering to Him. Because He is the one who controls everything. And since He is in control of everything, if I surrender to Him, then everything will be taken care of. Such a realized devotee also disregards what ordinary living beings say about Him. Every day he fills his ears with your glories, which are recited in each age by the unbroken succession of Manu's descendants, and thus you become his ultimate salvation. Because you are unlimited, neither the lords of heaven nor even you yourself can ever reach the end of your glories. The countless universes, each enveloped in its own shell, are compelled by the wheel of time to wander within you, like particles of dust blowing about in the sky. The Shrutis, following their method of eliminating everything separate from the Supreme, become successful by revealing you as their final conclusion. So these Shrutis from the Vedas, their goal is to reveal the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, as the final conclusion. This is the ultimate aim, the ultimate goal of life. The Supreme Lord Sri Narayan Rishi said to Narad, having heard these instructions about the Supreme Self, the personality of Godhead, the sons of Brahma now understood their final destination. They felt perfectly satisfied and honored Sanandana with their worship. Thus the ancient saints who travel in the upper heavenly planets distilled this nectarian and confidential essence of all the Vedas and Puranas. As you wander the earth at will, my dear son of Brahma, you should faithfully meditate on these instructions concerning the science of the self, which burn up the material desires of everyone. Shukdev Goswami said, when Sri Narayan Rishi ordered him in this way, the self-possessed sage Narad, whose vow is as heroic as a warrior's, accepted the command with firm faith. Now successful in all his purposes, he thought about what he had heard and replied as follows. Sri Narad said, I offer my obeisances to him of spotless fame, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who manifests his all-attractive personal expansions so that all living beings can achieve liberation. Shukdev Goswami then continued, after saying this, Narad bowed down to Sri Narayan Rishi, the foremost of sages, and also to his saintly disciples. He then returned to the hermitage of my father, Dvaipayan Vyas. Vyasadeva, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, respectfully greeted Narad Muni and offered him a seat, which he accepted. Narad then described to Vyas what he had heard from the mouth of Sri Narayan Rishi. Thus I have explained to the question you asked me, replied to the question you asked me, O King Parikshit, concerning how the mind can have access to the absolute truth, which is indescribable by material words and devoid of material qualities. He is the Lord who eternally watches over this universe, who exists before, during, and after its manifestation. He is the master of both the unmanifest material energy and the spirit soul. After sending forth the creation, he enters within it, accompanying each living entity. There he creates the material bodies and then remains as their regulator. By surrendering to him, one can escape the embrace of illusion, just as a dreaming person forgets his own body. One who wants liberation from fear should constantly meditate upon him, Lord Hari, who is always on the platform of perfection and thus never subject to material birth. With that, we end the 87th chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.